Hello, everybody. Hedy here. So, today I want to explore two movements with you. They're really classic exercises that we should all be getting stronger at. The first one is a squat, and the second one is a hinge. And what I love about these is that you can really make it as challenging as you want them to be, or as less challenging as you want them to be. Plus, we do them in our daily lives, and this is movement for life after all. So, let's start with a chair. Okay, the first one is going to be a squat with a chair, right? Because we sit and we stand up a lot in life, right? So, front view, you're going to stand in front of your chair, just like so. Your feet are a comfortable distance apart. And then I'm going to turn to my side so you get the side view. I just want you to see where feet placement was there. So, comfortable distance apart. You're right in front of your chair. And here's the thing with the squat is that we actually want to start from our hips, right? We don't want to bend our knees first. Sometimes if we bend our knees first, what happens is we end up pushing our pelvis forward, right? Eventually we would get our hips back, but we don't want to load our knees first. So, hips, right? And then knees. And it's like a millisecond apart. And we're going to just go all the way down and sit lightly in our seat. You may want to walk forward a little bit in your chair before you get back up. Now, getting back up is a whole other thing. First thing, what we're not going to do is have our heels under our knees. This makes getting up really hard. You'll probably end up pushing into the chair or into your legs in some way to make that happen. So, let's set ourselves up for success. We slide our heels behind our knees so our toes are underneath our knees, right? And the movement here is starting from our hips, just like when we sat down, but here we're hinging forward, okay? And the power for the get up comes from our feet and legs. So you push your feet into the floor, feel your legs activate, and that's going to get you up. Then we got to get back down. So we start with our hips, then our knees follow. Another thing you can do is let your arms float forward or even a little bit up, right? To keep your chest a bit more lifted. And then you sit back down, light as possible. Okay. Now, here's a way to make this a little bit more challenging. We're going to get back up. So we hinge at our hips, right? Push into our feet, slowly stand up, right? And then we're going to slowly go back into our squat. If you want, you can just hover. Okay, you can even pause there and then push into your feet to get back up. Let's do that again. So, hips, then knees slowly lowering. Maybe your arms float forward, even a little up, so your chest stays a bit more lifted, right? And then slowly, like slow motion, stand up. That is really going to up the challenge. Okay, so that's your chair squat. Let's take a look at squats without a chair. You can still actually keep the chair nearby. So if you wanted to try adding weight, but you weren't ready to take the chair away, you can still do this with a chair behind you. I'm just going to move it away so that you can see another way. So, weight. How much weight are you going to hold? Well, if you've really never done a squat holding any weight, which is highly unlikely because you probably pick things up in your life, but let's just say you haven't, start really light. Start with a few pounds, maybe a couple cans or water bottles or like a little statue you have or a couple books, anything to add a little bit of load. Maybe you have a dumbbell, like a 5-pound dumbbell. So what we're going to do for our standing squats, it's a little bit different. You're just going to hold the weight close to you. So it's like you're wearing a backpack in the front. You're just adding some weight onto your body. You're going to take your feet a little bit wider than your hips. So maybe like shoulder distance apart. And most of us, as we're getting lower and lower to the ground, our toes will need to turn out a little bit. So you can just start with your toes slightly turned out. Okay, there's the front view. Side view, we do the same thing as if we had the chair behind us. So we start with our hips, our knees follow. Good. We're going to look forward, right? So that we're, again, trying to keep our chest a bit more upright. We're not like parallel to the floor there. And then we push into the feet to come up. right? How far down do we go? It depends, right? You do what you can do. So maybe your knees don't want to bend that far, so or that much, right? So we start with our hips, we let our knees bend, and we do like a quarter squat. And we still push into our feet and slowly come back up. Maybe you can go a little bit further, hips and knees, right? We're not quite parallel to the floor yet with our thighs. Push into your feet to come back up, right? Maybe you want to try, yep, hips and knees lined up so your thighs are parallel to the floor. Push into your feet to come back up. Now, the slower you go, the more challenging it will be. Okay. Last, if you want to let your hips drop a little bit below your knees, you can do that too, right? We got to garden, we got to pick things up from the floor, and sometimes we got to get down low, right? How many of these do we do? Well, if you can do 5, great. Maybe you go to 10. Maybe you do a set of 12. By the end of your set, you kind of want to feel like tired, like your muscles have really worked. And don't worry, you can always do another set after a little bit of rest. So you do what you can do. I'll show you one more from the front and then we'll go to the next exercise. So hips, then knees, chest is a bit more upright. You go as low as feels comfortable going, and then push into your feet and you stand back up. Okay, so you can put your weight down or whatever you were holding and just like shake out your legs a little bit. If that feels a little risky, just hold onto a chair, shake it out, shake out your arms. Okay, the next exercise, we'll just call these hinges. What I love about them is one, we use them in everyday life. And two, they're great if, let's say, your knees are not so happy bending deeply. These don't require a deep knee bend. Okay. So, again, you can do this without any weight, but usually in life, we're doing these with a little weight. So, grab something light if you've never done them before, 2 pound, 3 pound, 5 pound. Okay. Hinges are a little bit different than squats, but really can get us to the same goal, which would be like getting down low. So you don't have to have your feet shoulder distance apart for hinges. They could be more hips distance. And whatever you're holding, I want you to imagine that they're like the handles to, say, 2 suitcases. Like you're about to go on some fabulous vacation and you're holding your 2 suitcases. Okay. Now, with the hinge, the first thing you're going to do is not reach your hips back. It's actually going to be softening your knees. And that's about as much as your knees need to bend for this. Okay, then we reach our hips back, just like we were reaching for a chair, but our knees are not changing their depth of bending. And we're going into a deep hip hinge. Your upper body may even become parallel to the floor. What I want you to try to avoid is letting the weights pull you down. So you're resisting the pull of the weight and, of course, the pull of gravity. And then same thing, you push into your feet to stand back up. One way that you know you're doing a hinge and not a squat, right, is you're going to feel your hamstrings lengthen. You're going to feel a hamstring stretch here, right? So we go into our hinges, push into your feet, come back up. Now, how do we make this more challenging? Add more weight, right? So usually our suitcases are more than 5 pounds. So add more weight, right? Maybe you have some 7 pound dumbbells. You can try, or you can like take 2 tote bags and add cans, right? So that you have something to practice with, right? Training for life, movement for life. Here we go again. Soft knees, right? Hip hinge, and we're not letting the weights pull us down. There's a lot of work happening in our backs, right, to resist that pull, right? Full body exercise here. My knees are really not bending that much. They're softening, and the movement is coming from my hips. Okay, and of course, changing the speed, so going slow is also going to add that extra challenge. That's oh so good. How many of these do you do? Same as the squats, right? It's up to you. It all depends. Maybe you start with a set of 5 each, right? See how that feels. Maybe next time you do it, you do 6 or 7. Maybe you do a set of each, take a little rest, like 2 or 3 minutes, and then do another set. These are so great to do every day, every day. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that helped and was clear for you. Um, have a wonderful day and keep moving.